Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another isolation interview. We are here with Tommy of Bad Wolves. We were just talking about how he's doing right now because, as this moment, he has a lot of things going on with later today. So, as of this afternoon, you're doing something special on Patreon for Bad Wolves. If you want to explain that to everyone what Live from Quarantine is all about.
Yeah, thanks, man. So Bad Wolves. So I got the guys together on the phone, and we were all like, we all in amidst this situation about a week and a half ago. We're like, what are we gonna do? We had to cancel the May tour with. We were supposed to go on tour with Fire from the Gods and Hollywood Undead. So the May tour got shut down, and I think we were like, we should just do like a live stream acoustic performance. So we basically got a bunch of songs together. We rehearsed at Doc's house, and then we're gonna be going today. We're going to Howard Benson's studio.
Awesome.
And we're gonna go. Yeah, we're gonna live stream at 2 p.m. And the Patreon site is just it's patreon.com/badwolves, and there's different tiers. There's like $2, $5, $10. Like we get like that. A lot of people aren't like rolling in dough right now, and people are a little worried about what's going to happen in the future. But we made all these different tiers for people to like check out the show, and then we have a bunch of unreleased studio material that I've been kind of putting on the band's Facebook. Like I've been sneaking it in snippets.
That's awesome.
That's gonna be and it's like, and all that stuff it's not gonna be available on iTunes. It's not gonna be available on Spotify. It's like literally a limited time. Like it's the limited stream on the Patreon. So there's gonna be songs, B-sides from Disobey, B-sides from Nation. There's lyric videos. Our music videos that are supposed to launch later this year, we're gonna launch them on the Patreon site first.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then we're also gonna be doing stuff like this, like. I was doing a lot of Q&A stuff on Instagram Live, and there's too many people. There's just too many people.
Yeah.
So we're going to use their streaming platform to call people and talk to people. And, you know, I used to be a counselor and a sober life coach. So it's like kind of naturally in me to like want to talk to people about how they're doing and ask them questions and use my platform to give them a space to like, get their anxiety out, especially now. Like that's what we need right now.
I think so too.
Yeah, so I think that having a Patreon and having it like narrowed down a little bit more, so we can kind of get that one-on-one time with the fans, is going to be like super essential, so that we can continue to like have a relationship with our fans, even though we're not. You know, I'm one of those guys who like I don't do meet and greets because I hate them. You know, I hate paid meet and greets. I've been forced to do them. I don't believe they're ethical, and I go in the crowd anyway at the shows, and I meet I've gone and waited till every single person has taken a picture with me at the end of the night, and that's all over the world, whether it's like Moscow or St. Louis or so I need that connection. You know, I want to hear from people, and I want to know how they're so this seemed like a good solution. You know, and so we have operational costs and studio costs. So, you know, basically we're just we're drawing a bigger circle around a little circle.
That makes sense. If you're interested in the Patreon, the actual link is in the pinned comment below, so you can check it out. If I'm correct, it's $10 and you get all of everything you just said for that tier. You get to see Live from Quarantine 2020 later today, and you're going to get to take part and comment and actually engage with Bad Wolves and do all this stuff, too. I think that's not only smart, it's inventive in the time frame we have right now. Patreon's been around for a while. Like, I have a Patreon for my channel, too. But at the same time, I think you guys are the first band, at least that I've seen in a little bit, really capitalize on that while everyone's in isolation, while tours are being canceled, while 2020 is put on a pause. So I guess the best way to say it now is you have all these thoughts, all these ideas for Patreon, for your fans. 2020 is still in standstill right now. What are some of the things you are looking forward to in 2020, or at least have optimistic hope for after whatever this isolation ends?
Well, one of the things is that so the entire metal community is watching us.
Okay.
Like all the other bands, all of our other friends, and if our Patreon is a success, then what's going to happen is all your other favorite bands are going to copy it. So it's a lot of work and effort. So, we originally, I had pitched this idea so I had pitched this as a tour, and I called a couple other big bands, and we were going to do a whole, like, it was going to be like a whole evening, like a Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And so I couldn't really convince the bigger bands that this was a good idea. So everyone's kind of just checking out to see how this goes. So that's another reason why we need people to like, if they really want to get involved, like, this is the time, because this is the beginning of like live concerts coming every week by other artists. So, and then outside of that, we are scheduled to go out with Disturbed and Stained in mid-July through mid-September.
Right.
And as far as I know, that's all happening, and we're like all systems go for that. And then we have to we were supposed to go to Australia in September, October.
Okay.
I'm sorry, October. I think October, and we were going to go with Papa Roach tentatively, but they're rescheduled the Five Finger tour to that time. So we're still trying to go there. We just aren't sure with whom. And then we have a co-headlining tour that's being booked for Europe in November, December. So once we get back to it, we're going to go straight to the end of the year. We're also taking this opportunity to actively work on the third record. So we're not everyone's in quarantine, but John has his home studio, Doc has his home studio, Chris has a home studio, and I'm going into this where Sparrow Sound probably like 2-3 times a week if I can, trying to limit it, and I also don't want to. We also have the lives thing going on and all this other stuff, so. But we're making pretty good headway on making a dent in the third record. And I think that we'll probably because of this quarantine, we'll probably finish another album. And my goal is to finish an album and do an EP.
Okay. So you got ambition for this time too. So that's intense. You're not just sitting back and waiting. I'm a
workaholic, man. And I'm not, I don't do well sitting still. Mm-hmm. And so, it's some people find a hard time when circumstances or when there's scarcity or fear of the future to get busy. But that's exactly when it kickstarts. Like, I've been homeless before. Yeah. I lived out of my car. I've slept on park benches, and I did whatever I had to do to get by. And so all this stuff that's happening is okay, cool. What can I do? How can I be of service? Where can I put work in? How can I help another person? How can I utilize this time to be creative, and then transcribe the experiences into art?
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
So I'm fired up. I'm weird. I'm weirdly. There's no traffic in LA. I'm this is
That does sound weird. Okay. It's intense to hear that, because you've been on both sides of the fence with actually being the one homeless, needing help, and then being a counselor, offering the help. And now that you're in a position where you can reach a lot of people, what do you recommend to so many other bands, artists, especially ones that are just starting out, just barely getting their foot in the door? What would you say for a big blip on the radar like this, a big roadblock?
What I had to learn was, so the music industry changed. So, and what I learned is you can't just be an artist. You have to have you should read books on business. You should read books on finance. You have to be able to keep your own books. And obviously we have a business manager at the level that we're at now, but leading up to that point, I stepped away. I started my own business and stepped away from music for a few years and got financially responsible. And then when me and John got together to make this obey, I invested, we both invested our own money into the album and made the album sound the way that we wanted to. And then we shopped it to different labels, and we did not accept critique. We found a label and a manager, Better Noise Music and Zoltan Bathory and 10th Street, who saw what we were doing, and they got us. Because we had gotten passed on by Nuclear Blast, really small labels. They were oh yeah, we don't, they're there's a lot of singing and we don't really get it. And you know, and
And then you go platinum, and that's nice.
yeah, like internationally,
Yeah.
multi platinum. But I mean, that's also, you know, that I think that's like an anomaly too. It's I don't think that anybody could have foreseen those circumstances. And honestly, if we were on any other label, the fact that our label owner had a relationship with Dolores and her family is, I think, how what facilitated our ability to donate the proceeds and contact the family and, you know, all that stuff, all that wonderful stuff that we took and did out of that tragic situation. So, you know, there's no there's no magic way. You know, I get a lot of people asking me what to do, but you have to be able to prove. Yeah, like you have to look at the people in the industry as like they don't want to lose their jobs, so they need to see that you are functioning. Like people are not tolerating drug addicts and alcoholics like going crazy. It's not you know, Molly Cruz on our label, and I watched the movie that they
The
put out. The label
documentary
actually,
thing, yeah.
yeah, the label actually made that movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I think, their second film, and you know, that's not acceptable anymore because there isn't millions and millions and millions of dollars in revenue from record sales for somebody to just come with a bag full of money and clean up your mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, now it's like, you know, you're seeing, you know, they want to know that you're going to be able to tour for the next 30 years. They want, you know, like Ozzy redefines that stuff. Like you know, guys like Nikki Sixx and, you know, they get their shit together and they, you know, Slash and you know, there are these legacy artists who all, they survived that phase. And then you know, and you have a lot of people who didn't, you know, and I think that, you know, if you think that it's going to be a party and it's not going to be work, then you're in the wrong industry. You know, I've worked construction, I've done demolition, I've done industrial window installation, I've been a bodyguard, I've been a bouncer, I've been a sober coach, I ran a men's living facility. Shit, I worked at a dog kennel cleaning up dog shit. I've done every kind of job.
You've had every job I could possibly think of. Okay.
This is the hardest job. You know, people don't realize because you got to do everything.
Yeah.
You got to do everything. You have to know how to do everything.
Yeah. And that's a good way to put it, too. I mean, my first interaction with you was seeing you guys on tour with Five Finger Death Punch, I think 2 years ago now, in the summer.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you guys backstage. You were the ones talking to everyone, like with the working crew, the touring crew, the venue staff. And that syncs with me now that I think about it. It's like, yeah, these guys do work. And when I saw you talking with everyone you could at Sonic Temple last year, doing every interview, every press, trying to talk to people, I'm like, okay. And hearing that now, it's like, yeah, these guys actually are the workhorses. They want to do it themselves. So it's cool to see that.
Well, it's also like when you, I think that's when you earn something versus when you're given something. Like there is a lot of people who don't want to go to work, and it's that part of the job is not a job to me. That's like the fact that anybody wants to talk to me. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, oh, really? Like, you should be excited. Not like, oh, like, it's such a drag that, like, I'm so popular. I'm like, dude, shut up.
That is the best dude bro impression of that attitude I've seen in a long time. Well done.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just always feel bummed for, like, I feel bummed. Like, people don't realize how hard you guys work and that the commitment. It's like, you know, people who are into music journalism and media, like that, they chose. Mm-hmm. You could easily be interviewing actors and like making much better money, like, but you guys love music. I'm like, we're all just a bunch of nerds with record players. We're just grown up, you know, talking about the things that we love and how, like, universally that music is a universal language. You know, so it's all about your perspective. Like, some people get really bummed on it, you know, but I'm not like that. Sometimes I ask the interviewers, I'm like, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, that was the first thing you asked me too, but when this call started. So yeah, we don't get that. So good job. It's business as usual sometimes. And I get that too, but it is refreshing to hear people actually try to engage in a conversation back and forth, which is nice.
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, listen, asthma brothers,
nice. So exactly, we got the inhalers for life. We got that Wheezy connection. So there you
the
go.
Wheezy, the
The Wheezy
the,
connection.
the,
That's
the
right.
Wheezy squad.
Yeah, with Sweezy Squad. There we go. So
That's great.
going back to what you're talking about, like just trying to plan for new music, you might have a new album done while in isolation, possibly. Going from Disobey to Nation, what are some of the goals you have? And you don't have to be super specific if you don't have like the actual ideas written yet. But like, what are some of your goals for album number three?
Well, I mean, it's like we are like a bipolar band. We have like, brutal, heavy stuff.
You can
Like
do
I
more
think
than one
Disobey
style.
was a little bit. What's that?
You can do more than one style, and that's awesome.
Yeah, like Disobey was like a very like focused on technicality,
Hmm.
and I think there was a lot of proving from an instrumentation sort of place of how proficient the guys can play and how well we could write songs that are that proficient. And then I think on the second record, we kind of made it more about what hits. Like, so the Disobey was for us, Nation was for everybody else. And now I think the new record is going to be a blend
Okay.
because I think we lost we definitely missed some of our roots with the like we are a band that like Slayer and Pantera and Fear Factory and Slipknot and um, we definitely have a couple tracks like that on Nation, but I definitely wanted to. I was very vocal about actually what happened was we got asked to play Dime Dash,
Okay.
which is the Dimebag Vinnie Paul
Tribute
from
show.
Pantera tribute show. And it was like Dave Grohl and the guys in Nickelback and Anthrax and Testament and like all these metal bands. And we came out and we Rita Dimebag's widow she's an old friend of mine, and she asked us to play, and I was like, can the whole band play? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, but we want to play deep cuts. And so she was like, okay, what do you want to play? And I was like, can we play Sandblasted Skin and use my third arm?
Okay.
And we
Dang.
came and we played, and the place like erupted. And I
That's
got
awesome.
that feeling again. And I've gone to see Pantera, and I got that feeling on stage, like that, and we crushed it. Like it was just like all of us we're just Pantera posers, to be honest. Like we have all these other influences, but the one uniting band,
Hmm.
there's three. There's the big three. There's like Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera. And but Pantera to me is like the uniting, like, and people have said that, like a lot of people are like, oh, you guys are kind of like the next Pantera, but with like more rock songs, and we're like, oh, sick. If
That's
we
high
can be in the
praise.
yeah, that's if we can land in the middle of Alice in Chains and Pantera, then then I can like die happy. I'm like, those are goals.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, so that's just like I miss that energy, and so now we're like in the studio, and I'm like, yeah, just give me the heavy. Like I've already wrote a couple of acoustic songs, and I don't know what's gonna happen with those. Like if they're gonna get built up but I'm just like, send me brutal. So
Okay.
we'll see what else comes up. There's already a couple of things, and I'm like, ooh, like and it's like
Yeah.
when you hear like, because I can't play guitar, so I'm a riff fan.
Okay.
Like when I hear like a riff, I'm like, like all right,
Do you have that like the
because you
wheels
know how
turn?
it's gonna react.
Yeah. Do you have the wheels turning in your heads right now for like what you're hoping to sound, and that's what you want to share with everyone? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm like, and then I start thinking about what to sing and what I'm gonna sing about and all that stuff. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. It's a great process, and there's so many creative guys in the band that it's just like,
Hmm.
I'm
That's
like, oh,
very
all
cool.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's cool. And also, if anyone's gonna call you a poser of anything, you could do worse than Pantera. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I think you're good with that. So,
The only person who would say that is someone who's not old enough to have ever gone to a Pantera show.
that sounds about right.
They don't have it. Like if you've not, I'm old enough that I've seen a lot of bands.
Hmm.
That was that's like that was a thing. They were the heaviest band on earth.
Yeah. That I mean, I never got to see him, so that's another one I missed out on. So, just how it
Yeah, well, I
is.
mean, imagine dusting a band like Morbid Angel, like one of the like
I've seen
greatest
Morbid.
death metal
I've seen
bands.
Morbid Angel. So
I mean, dude, I saw Morbid open for Pantera, and like, I mean, they evaporated them.
really,
Yeah,
that's
evaporated
intense.
Neurosis, Clutch. I've seen
Mhm.
all these bands open for Pantera. They just, it's like they didn't exist.
That's
It's
huge.
just like you're like, oh Jesus,
Like
like you forget
Thanos snapping
that
their
there was
finger.
even an
Okay,
opening band. You're just like Jesus Christ, like so.
that's
Yeah,
awesome. So I know you got your tons of stuff coming up. I always ask one final question to everyone that I interview, and it's always the same thing because I always get such a different response. I always ask, what's one thing you remember while playing live that's like a memorable story for you? That's a crazy fan story in the crowd while you're on stage. Something you've seen, whether that's something funny, crazy, wild, gross, heartwarming. Do you have like a crazy fan story that you remember in your head while you're on stage playing live?
I don't have a fan. I don't have a fan story, but I had like a really. I had like. It was really weird, man.
Okay.
We played like I saw Ghost on like from on stage,
Okay.
not the band Ghost. Like so, it was kind of like the end of Star Wars. We played. I remember we were in Europe last spring, and we played Grass Pop.
Hmm.
And after Zombie, I like looked over and I saw my friend who died
Really?
on the side of the stage.
Like watching?
I don't. And like again, I've been sober for 11 years. Like I was just like I don't know if the sun got to me, and I just broke down crying.
That's intense. I've not heard that one before. So,
Yeah, and then I walked, and this is what's weird. I walked off stage and I was like, I was hysterical crying. Because I didn't get to bury him. I didn't get to say goodbye to him.
mm,
And he died on the East Coast, and I was on the plane going to him because he was in a coma.
hmm.
And this happened like in 2017, and I came off the side of the stage, and Doc came to check on me, and then Randy from Lamb of God and Sid from Slipknot. Well, these are all the homies, and they're like, "Yo, you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." I just like, and then I looked over, and Chris, my guitar player, he was crying, and he said he saw his dad, and we hadn't
Wow.
even spoke, and so that was like the weirdest. That's like the weirdest thing that I've ever experienced on stage, and
Hmm.
I've had a near death experience, and so I'm a deeply spiritual person, and I've never experienced anything like that, and it was just like oh like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and how people can see us, and that there's like more to this after this,
Yeah.
and that's
That's
like it was
it feels like such a extra not terrestrial but just like such an afterlife reunion with everyone they cared
yeah
about too. So that's kind of astonishing. I like that story. I like knowing when stuff like that can happen to people. So that's
yeah
huge.
it was super intense,
That's
and the
awesome.
fact that I could have shrugged it off as like but
Yeah.
the fact that Chris had that same like we hadn't even talked,
Hmm.
and Chris's dad passed away of cancer, and so and like it was just
Extreme
it
circumstances too for both your friend and his dad. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like you're like wait what like, and then it's just like the whole rest of the day it was just like everything was just like calm. It was
Hmm.
just like a weird vibe. I was like, huh, really weird.
That's
But
intense. That's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing that. So,
yeah, yeah.
you got some cool stuff coming up. You're working. You're staying way too busy, even though you're in isolation. You got something awesome coming up with Patreon today. So, we're going to wrap it up. If you're interested in checking out Live from Quarantine on Patreon, the link's below in the YouTube pinned comment. Also, if you have, Tommy, if you have anything you want to share before we close to everyone, because this just goes live on YouTube right after, let us know. Just go for it right now. Time's yours.
Yeah, man. Just everybody, just make sure to take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Also, look, there's a couple of things. Now, it's really important that on the first 3 days of the month, you don't buy grocery products that say WIC. So if there's a sign that says WIC under it, that's because those are food stamps for people who are from low-income families with children,
Mm.
and they can't afford. They're not allowed to. They get government subsidized checks, and those checks do not work like as regular money for other products. So if it says WIC, just leave it. Just leave it. If you have money, leave it. And also check on your strong friends. I tell a lot of people that because people don't realize it's usually people who are like always carrying everybody else around that are too afraid to ask for help, and I've been that person. So just check on your strong friends. Just shoot them a text. Say, hey, you okay? Like, are you good? It goes a long way.
Good advice. Thank you, guys. And thank you again. We're going to check out Live from Quarantine later today. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you taking the time for this.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. It sounds like things are going awesome, man. That's huge. Just keep getting that inhaler. I know I'm going to be doing the same thing.
I'm gonna go get a hit off it as soon as we get off the phone.
We're the